There is a space in my heart where I find the truth. I find me in you, a truth beyond what you may see now. But when we are one, we bring more good about. No matter who or what you call yourself or where you come from, yeah. There is a place in this world with open arms right now. Welcome to love, welcome to peace, welcome to our community. Be who you are, let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. I see with new eyes, allow and unfold, embrace and let go, trust the flow. There's a freedom in love when you follow your heart. Together we are stronger than we could ever be apart. No matter who or what you call yourself or where you come from, yeah. There is a place in this world with open arms right now. Welcome to love, welcome to peace, welcome to our community. Be who you are, let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. Breathe in and out. Slowly feel all that's around you. All that you feel, all that you know. Let it go. Welcome to love, welcome to peace, welcome to our community. Be who you are, let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. Yeah, when we unite. Oh, we unite. Yeah, yeah, when we unite. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You are welcome here. Love is welcome here. Peace is welcome here. You are welcome here.
Good afternoon and welcome everyone to Center for Spiritual Living Ocala. I am Reverend Cindy Grimes and you are welcome here. No matter what walk of life you come from, what your orientation, your socioeconomic, whatever it is, you are welcome here and we welcome you with open arms. These are our values at Center for Spiritual Living Ocala, the things that are important to us as an organization. Spiritual growth and practice is at the top of the list. It is why we gather together in community so that we can help and grow together. We value love. We believe that love is where we come from. Love is what we're about and what we are made of. And it is also at the top of our list. We believe in appreciation and that what we appreciate grows in our awareness and our experience. We value community, that gathering. Things can happen in community that don't happen when we are in practice on our own. We need both of them. So we value community. We value freedom of expression and being all that we came here to be. We value creativity and believe that we all are endowed with the capacity of our creator as creators ourselves, creators of our experience. We value health and wholeness, and that is health and wholeness in every area of life, whether it's physical health, emotional health, and well being and wholeness. We value generosity. We are a very generous community, giving and receiving. They both go together. And we value financial well being. So that is our values as a center. And this is our vision as CSL Ocala. We are a model center for spiritual living as evidenced by the transformational impact we have on our own spiritual community, the larger Centers for Spiritual Living organization, and the community at large where we live right here in Ocala, Florida. And what that means for me is that what we are doing is working. We know that it is happening when the transformations are happening in your own lives and in our community. And our mission is to empower individuals to awaken to the power and presence that lies within and all around them. Meaning that we believe truly that God is all there is, whether you call it God or you call it creator or universe, it doesn't matter. It is all encompassing. We are each part of that. In other words, we are the living, moving, breathing expression of spirit itself. And so, take my glasses off here for a little bit. I think I'm going to invite one of my friends in to do our invocation. I'm going to bring in Reverend Rodney. Hey, Rev Rodney, how are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you.
Wonderful. And for those who join us pretty regularly, they already know Reverend Rodney. But for those who don't, who maybe it's their first time with us, Reverend Rodney is from the One Love Center in Brooklyn, New York. And I was with him in his broadcast this morning, and he's joining us this afternoon for ours. And I thought, I'd love for my community to hear different people pray. And so if you would grace us with our invocation, I would be most appreciative, Rodney.
I'm most honored. Thank you.
Wonderful. And you will just love hearing his voice. So I'm going to take myself out of the feed here and let Rodney take it over for a bit. Thanks, Rodney.
All right. Well, welcome each and every one. I welcome you to this opening prayer. It's called an invocation or evocation. It's most certainly an opportunity to know the greater truth. And so please join with me as we know this truth together. Uh, we will go going within. I invite you to close your eyes, feel comfortable, at ease, at peace, sitting right where you are. If you are driving, keep your eyes on the road, keep your attention on the road, keep your attention on where you're going. And those of us who are not driving or operating heavy machinery, we can pay attention to where we are going within. So I invite you right now to just breathe. Just breathe and know that there is only one. There's actually only one breath. And that breath is the breath of the divine, the breath of God, whether you call it Allah or Buddha or Yahweh or whatever name, it, he, she, doesn't matter, whatever name, doesn't matter, there's only one. That one, simply called God, is the individualized expression of all ones. So, as I know that I am of that one, and I know that each one of us are of the one. We are ones of the one, of the Creator. So I know that out of itself, it has created a wonderful opportunity to know it, to know God. And for us to know, each and every one of us is an individualized expression of that one. And I know that Ocala Center for Spiritual Living is indeed a manifestation of this creative mind that is shared by all, because we are all here sharing this time in this space. And so I am knowing that this time together is wonderful, holy time. It is a divine time as we are led so wonderfully by Reverend Cindy Grimes, knowing that she and her guests are open to this divine word being expressed in, through, and as them, providing a wonderful opportunity for all who are watching and participating through Facebook Live and by whatever means that they are paying attention to this broadcast, that they are blessed. This whole service, this celebration, this broadcast is a blessing. I know that there is great work being done as this month is exploring this wonderful process of breathing and pushing, of knowing that there is activity in this creative process, this birthing process. And I know that there are indeed lives that are being transformed by what happens here and right now. So I bless it all as good. All those who are in attendance, all those on the way, all those who are called to be elsewhere, and those who are watching now or later on Facebook Live. Blessings in abundance to each and every one. And so, and knowing that this is already coming into fruition, I simply allow it to be the good that it is intended to be, the good that it is that it is most certainly allowing itself to be now. And as anyone watches later on, it's the same powerful message. And so I simply let it be this good. And I simply close this prayer, this invocation, by saying, and so it is, and now it is, right now. Amen.
Amen. And so it is, and now it is. Thank you, my friends. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to give a little bit of intro, and then I'm going to bring you back in with our other two guests, and we'll get into our conversation. Thank you so much for that powerful invocation. I know it's going to be a deep and moving talk today.
Mhm.
Thank you, Rodney.
You're welcome.
All right. So let's see. I want to give you a little bit of background. We have been talking about the Revolutionary Love Project by Valerie Kaur from her book, See No Stranger. And let me take this out for just a second here. So, See No Stranger, there's 10 chapters or 12 chapters to the book, and we've been going through one every month and taking that topic and basically breaking it down. Now, revolutionary love is the Jesus kind of love, right? We're talking about love of all, of love of self, love of others, and even love of those we call opponents. And so for the first part of the year, we talked about loving others and our opponents. And now this compass is turned toward loving ourselves. And the first part of loving ourselves in Valerie's program is the idea of just taking time to breathe. And so we talked about that throughout September. And this month, we're bringing in the next aspect of it, which is to push, to use that birth metaphor, to breathe and push. So Valerie defines pushing as to push is to enter grief, rage, or trauma as part of a healing process. Pushing requires us to discern the right times to breathe and rest, and the right time to push through painful sensations, emotions, and thoughts to birth new possibilities in ourselves and others. This is a picture of Valerie. She says, when I was finally ready to love myself, I had to learn how to breathe and push through my grief, rage, and trauma. On the other side, I found what seemed utterly impossible before healing, forgiveness, and even reconciliation. And so that is what our conversation is about this month. That idea of pushing through uncomfortable and difficult things, not just for the purpose of healing, but for the purpose of growth. And so I am going to be joined by a few of my wonderful friends. We will bring Reverend Rodney Gittins back in, who you've met. Hey, Rodney. We are bringing in also Reverend Mary Ellen Cassie, who many of you, if you've been watching CSL Ocala, you know she is one of our regular guests and was excited to have this conversation. Thank you for joining us, Mary Ellen. So Brooklyn's in the house, Hamilton, Canada. Hamilton, Ontario, Canada is in the house. And now we're going to bring in Atlanta, Georgia with our practitioner, Norma Anderson. Hello, hello, beautiful people. How's
Hello,
everybody
how are you
doing?
this morning? Wonderful.
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I've been thinking about this topic for a little bit now and feeling myself immersed in it. So I just can't wait to mix it up with you all. And I'll just throw the first question out there. How does that metaphor resonate for you? The idea that, to birth something new, or that we are in a time right now where something new is wanting to be born. And with that birthing process comes some pain and some messiness. It's not really a whole lot of fun for anybody. Uh, the person being birthed and the one doing the birthing, it's not a great time for anybody. Um, but I equate that, and so does Valerie, to the time that we're in right now, where she posed the question, what if the darkness that we're experiencing collectively is not the darkness of the tomb, but the darkness of the womb? And so, in loving ourselves, we first breathe, but then we need to know when it's time to push. And so, I'm actually really happy we've got a man to have this conversation and add that perspective as well, because we're talking metaphors, right? You don't have to have actually given birth to understand what this is about, right? So how does the metaphor ring for you? Does it ring true? Does it work? Does it make sense? Go ahead,
It
Emmy.
it does for me, Reverend Cindy. I mean, I love her work. Period. However, the metaphor about breathing and pushing, when I put them together, they have two different arenas for me. Breathing I do every day. However, when I read them together, it resonated differently for me. And I mean, we know how this book was written and built upon lots of rage and anger and grief, and then miraculously into this revolutionary love document that I love. But breathing for me is reminding myself that I'm not breathing myself, but breathing in this universe. And what does that mean? And so I shared an example with you, Reverend Cindy, a while back about going to Source for myself and asking, how is it possible that I'm here in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, breathing the same air, and India does not have any air to breathe? They are dying and burying their loved ones. And I had to contemplate that in a different fashion, because before I got serious in her work, actually, and being a guest with you quite often, it has changed my whole perspective. I don't have a thought about something before I'm into it. And so when this came up today, oh yes, I remember contemplating, how is it possible I live on this planet Earth with many, many people, and I still have clean air to breathe. And then so that's a life force, that we need air. We need water and air. From the time as being an infant, you get that little smack on the butt and we begin to cry. Oh, we made it. We made it through that womb, which could feel like a tomb at times, I'm sure, for all of us when we walk ourselves off. So that's one element, because I also learned from breathing how I coped to many difficult, I call them opportunities now more than situations that I've lived through. But so that was a birthing process of coming out the other side when we're in a situation or we solve an issue. We get to solve the problem, whatever that is. And And then pushing for me has another turn of events as well. I had to push myself when I lost my son to an institution and things like that, about how do I live my life now? I was contained in all of this, heat of the moment, I suppose, at that time. That lasted a few years. But how do you come out? And how do you keep surviving for yourself? I had to resurrect and knowingly fall in love with myself, actually. And I never got taught that, but so now I know how to take self-care and where to go. And also, for me, the other side of that metaphor about breathing and pushing is not pushing my way into events, allowing things to happen. So there's a different, I guess a softer touch for me would be gently opening up that door to see what is there before I enter and not barging in. So any circumstance can come and happen to me today, and I would react a lot differently than I did 22 years ago. Absolutely. In a calmer fashion, in a loving fashion for myself. I've learned to put my oxygen mask on first, and that would be in breathing and then pushing. And so I'm most grateful for these two words and for, well, 4 words, because I really like the revolutionary love that I know that you're creating in Ocala and around the world just by having us here, sharing. And this is what my vision wants to be as well, is to see where we are all treating each other with love and respect. That we are open arms. This isn't what is happening right now in my world here. There is a lot of greed and a lot of hate. We've moved off the grief radar.
Yeah.
And now I'm living in a world that is pretty scary out there for me, even driving a car. So remembering to push gently, moving myself gently through the chaos is of a great assistance to me for carrying on.
Yeah.
So that's what I got out of that. Those 2 words triggered the difference of how I'm using them collectively for self-love and self-care.
Thanks, Mary Ellen. Yeah.
Thank you.
And so you've given birth, actually, and I've given birth to 3 kids and a couple of businesses. I had C-sections though, but I had to be taught when you go through the first time to do that breathing, and they kind of try to prepare you. Although, of course, you never know what that is until you're in the moment. And Norma, I don't even know. Norma, did you have a regular delivery? Did you have C-sections, or what's your connection to this metaphor, if you have one?
I had a regular delivery, but if I'd have known the size of his head, I would have opted for something else. But but when you're talking 36 years ago, it's kind of hard to remember the pain and all the the trauma around the experience. But like everybody else, I'm sure I know that I had it. Actually, all I really remember is my big toe hurting, but I know there was a lot of the other stuff too.
But now you've birthed a couple of other things too, a couple of businesses and some things. And so that idea of breathing and pushing.
Well, and actually I have things right on the precipice of happening. So we're doing some pushing now also, but I was thinking about the breathing part because physically I find myself either holding my breath or doing shallow breathing. And I have to make myself actually think, because breathing is a natural process and it happens whether you want it to or not, but proper breathing doesn't naturally happen. So I have to make myself take deep breaths that actually really do the work that breathing is supposed to do. And that made me think about my first time, metaphysically or metaphorically, that I actually held my breath. And that was back when I was 12 and my mom passed. And I think I held my breath for years because I did not know at that point who I was, where I fit in, what I was supposed to be doing. So I was kind of floating, not really existing.
Oh no, you froze.
Ah, am I back?
You're back. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's not till I was close to 40. So that was almost 30 years of not breathing.
Mm.
And now, every action now for me is deliberate. I know the purpose behind what I do. So the push is a lot easier because there's purpose.
Yeah. It's intentional,
Yes.
right? You're taking the time to push as needed.
Yes.
Love that. I love that. And some of these things, what the birth process, right? When the baby's coming, it's coming, so you can assist your body, you can facilitate the process, or you can fight it.
But it's going to
And
happen.
but it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And if you do it well, it's much easier. There's a lot less pain that's involved. But then, I can remember with my second one, she was a planned C-section, my daughter. And I had so much trouble with the first one. And they were only a year apart. So I'm laying on the gurney, getting prepped, and everybody left me for just a few moments. Everybody walked out of the room, the nurses, the doctors, and I was laying there by myself on the gurney. And I had this thought, if I leave now, I could probably get away. And as if I wouldn't have to go through the process if I could just disappear, that moment of crazy. But just remember, and then the next thing is, of course, I can't get out of this. I've got to go through this process. But it's just funny, like you have that sense of like, I just want to be any place but here and have to do what's in front of me to do. Right. But there's some part of you that knows you've got to go through it. Right. So, Rodney, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this whole metaphor. And I know you've birthed a few things too.
Yes, I have. Um,
Mhm.
and yeah, and I love the metaphor and the analogies. And it's interesting. And we spoke briefly about this before the broadcast. Yeah, something's going to come. And it's interesting the whole purpose of breathing. Like if somebody didn't know that they had to breathe and push, like what what would happen? Or sure, it wouldn't be very smooth for the most part. That's my understanding of it. And like, how did it become so like? Who knew that they had to breathe and push? I mean, that was going to make it easier. Where did that begin? Uh, Now, as far as the creative process is concerned, I'm sure we're breathing and pushing our way in and through a lot of things without even necessarily paying attention to it. We just do it. Uh, but I did hear somebody mention about it being smoother if we make a practice of breathing, and then the pushing doesn't have to be so hard. I can only imagine that I've known women that have given birth to like 20 kids or more. And after a while, they think, oh, it was nothing. They just, I guess they can be so relaxed that they don't have to push to force it out. They're maybe in such control that they can just aid in that process without the breathing and the pushing and the concentration. And I remember many years ago, I was a stand in for a friend of mine for his wife in the Lamaze classes, and I had to be there, and me and his wife were practicing all the pushing and everything. I wasn't there for that birth. I've been for live for other births, and it's like you said, some of that stuff seems to go out the window. All those weeks of practice, and you still have to tell the mother to be push, push. It's like after all that, it's like we talked about the GPS, and when we were in our session, and even though you had the directions, you still have to make the effort to get to where you want to go. And that breathing and pushing. I One Love Center here, or where side it's on. One Love Center was a literally a 9 month process of visioning, and we did meeting pretty much week after week, and then we stretched it out a little bit. However, it really can't. It was a birth from the visioning process, where we'd use spiritual, prayer, meditation, and we focused on things, and then and actually it came out of some grief. It came out of a loss for the previous center that myself and some friends belonged to, and we were feeling this need to have something else happen, and we couldn't rush into it. Even the name itself took 9 months in development, and it was just a matter of let's let's do it. And then at the end, after all the meetings and everything, we still needed a big push to meet, and we had to find a place to meet. We had to do all these things that, to me, and a lot of prayer. And it reminds me of the acronym for push. I did, I love acronyms. I didn't make this one up, okay? But I love it. It's push, PUSH. Pray until something happens. And we have to do that until something happens. You don't necessarily just pray once, although it could work that way. You don't breathe just once, like, okay, where is it? you know. So yeah, this birthing process is a process. I don't know any creature on the planet that gets pregnant and gives birth immediately. There's got to be some process to it, and for us, breathing and pushing is it's like when Norma mentioned holding the breath. It constricts us. It holds us back. There's no flow when we're holding on and tight, and it slows down our creative process. And so I can only imagine a mother on a table who's holding her breath, and the legs are closed, and there's a constriction. There's nothing going to be birthed in a positive, easy way. Or I'm no, I don't mean easy. I'm not taking that lightly,
Mhm.
but I am saying easier than compared to a struggle of not allowing the breath to flow and be a part of it. Because you have to have the breath to push. You can't do it any other way. And we have to have the breath to put to move into action when we're in that creative process. Holding our breath is not going to allow us to even think on a high level. So I love the analogy, and I love that we can assert it, insert it, and assert it in the different avenues of our lives. I'm in the midst of being involved in a business, and it's birthing my own part of it, and it's a lot of breathing, and I haven't been doing a lot of pushing, but I'm doing a lot of breathing. So I feel like I'm in that Lamaze kind of practice and learn how to go with this inner flow, so that when it's time to push, I have control of my breath to
Yeah.
push. Yeah.
Yeah. Lita said this. Let me see if I can get it on there. Where'd it go? Show it. What comes naturally doesn't always mean easy, right? So we know it's like our body has a knowing and an understanding of what we need to do, but that doesn't mean it's easy.
Mm.
And I had C-sections because I guess my pelvis is too narrow, but it was time for that child to come out. If there was not a doctor there to take him out surgically, we could have both ended up dying, and that happened to a lot of women a lot of women died in childbirth because they couldn't, get the child out of the canal, it wouldn't come out. So, there are things that have to be. Just like now, again, I feel like there are things that are waiting to be born. The old ways of doing things and being and relationship with one another many of them are not working, and something else is wanting to to announce its arrival.
So it's like another analogy is like dreams die when they're not given that breath of life. You know,
Mhm.
when we don't breathe into those dreams, and then we have to push them out. We have to get them out there.
Mhm.
Otherwise, the dreams can die.
The
Now,
dreams
I
can
don't
die,
believe.
and we can die along with them, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
right. Yeah.
your
Oh,
will to go
sure.
on.
Yes.
Yeah,
If we're
yeah,
not living our dream, that's almost like a sickness. You know, almost like it's eating us up alive. If we're not getting it out, if we're not living, being who we're supposed to be, and
yeah,
it's the expression, the X pushing out that is an
yeah.
expression of who we are and what we're here to do. And if we're not living that, it feels like death. That's for sure. Feels like, why am I alive if I can't live my life? I can't be who
Right.
I'm supposed to be. And however, I guess no, I don't guess. I know it's up to us. It's up to each. Nobody can do it for us.
Right.
We have to, like, no, you can't birth a child. Well, I guess they can have a surrogate, but as far as my own, nobody can bring my own personal dream alive. It's got to be me.
Hmm. Though others can pave the way for you or make it easier for you as you go through that process, right? That's the beauty of community, I
Yeah.
think, is that we
But when
can
we're going through
help one
grief,
another.
yeah, when we're grieving, nobody can take that away from it. We have to go through that ourselves.
Hmm.
Regardless of what that pain is, it's personal. Even though it might be shared in a group, it's still personal to each and every part of one in that community. And we've all got to do our work. We've all got to do our breathing, and we all have to. It's going to take a little effort. Um, all that stuff just doesn't go away. I guess with a either holding a breath or Norma, how did you say it? The small breath,
Yeah, shallow, shallow
shallow
breathing.
breath.
Hmm.
That's not enough. You got to get in there. Yeah.
Hmm. Make it a practice, right? That's what we call it, spiritual practice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can somebody, let's see, I like this quote right here. We can go through any situation under an appropriate moral compass. You know, as you said, your why, your destination.
Mm.
When it's important enough for you, then you go through whatever you need to go through, right? So
And nobody can do it for you.
that's right. Nobody else can do it for you. So that kind of brings me to the next question. Like personally, what are the ways that you push yourself? Now, Valerie's talking about just in the aspect of healing, but I think it's the same thing whether you're healing or intentionally looking to grow. Whether that's growing in your understanding of yourself, or growing like you want a new career, or you want to have the forever relationship. Um, yeah, what are the ways that you push yourselves to to go into those darker places where the healing and the growth happens? Anybody want to speak to that?
Well, I think first for me, I have to figure out my why. Because that lays the groundwork, the basis on whatever it is that I'm doing. So if I don't have a definitive why as to what it is I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and how whoever is going to benefit from it, there's not going to be that drive. There's not going to be the push. It's going to be different ways to put it off and not do it and put it in the back burner and what have you. But if you have definitely a confirmation of your true why, I think that for me, and anyway, for me, it kind of helps keep the ball rolling.
I love that. Thank you, Mama. I didn't even, yeah, of course. Perfect. How about you, Mary Ellen, Reverend Mary Ellen?
Well, I like I sometimes I don't use the word push so much when I talk to myself. I use the word more stretching myself out of my comfort zone, or um, taking the risk, being vulnerable with a group of people you never met before, or uh, so do I play quietly to myself and share.
Odd sounds. Hang on a second.
It's me.
I muted you, Norma.
I was going to mute me.
Okay. Sorry, Mariel. Go ahead.
Well, that's okay. I felt like I was crashing into the waves or something for a second. And that was just sharing, taking the risk, being vulnerable. And now I know how releasing that, practicing that more, because it is a practice. It isn't something I would have put my hand up for before. We didn't share secrets when I was growing up. Everything stayed in the home. So you didn't share anything that happened. And so now to do it in a way of healing myself completely through the work that I do and things like that, it is taking a stretch for me, so pushing myself over that edge to just, the first time I did that with the group I belong to now, your group, Cindy, is like, oh my God, I don't know whether I wanted to pick up my head the next morning, whether I wanted to step outside, how many people are watching this program, blah, 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 blah. So to get rid of the blog, I just said, oops. I mean, it's already out there, and it was very freeing because I forgot that we were recording. It didn't hit me until after the fact. And so, anyways, I know how valuable pushing is, or stretching oneself through anything. For me, it brought me back to myself, where I now have energy restored and my health is being restored and things like that. And it is different pushing, because pushing is more like my contemplation side of my life, and breathing is intentional through my meditation, or to be even to listen to things, listen to my body even. And so stretching myself, assessing things, and usually it's from my setting of intentions, setting an intention every day, and then paying attention to what I've set an intention to. So that's sort of like my marker to know that that was a good day when I have my review at the end of my day. And I think also stretching myself shows me how to be more grateful in the world as well. I mean, I'm grateful that I fell over into that spilling of the beans, the vulnerability, and then experience. This is what I didn't understand. It's easy for people to say, oh, you don't have to be fearful, but the freedom came from sharing the vulnerability. Being vulnerable opened me up more and more, but each time I do it, I have another healing inside the body that has been traumatized over years. And I don't have to name them, I just notice the difference in my body awareness now.
Yeah.
So I think that's, and now I'm paying more attention where I don't throw myself under the bus. I do it in a loving and caring fashion now. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think I have to have a struggle in my life to have success or anything.
Right.
Right. So that was the gift, I think, that came out of stretching myself. And another word I guess I'd use here, Reverend Cindy, would be I reclaimed my own power. I reclaimed my power because I didn't know I had it. But now I feel it and I have it. And also the shift in my energy. So I think those are some of the things that are the gifts of living through that, oh my God, I didn't think I could ever do that. And here it is. And it's like, oh, it's really good to do. That's what I can say that today with a happy face on even. Right. So I bless all of us that are able to, and we're all capable of doing this. It's about finding that love within ourselves, to love ourselves enough to go dig deep. When Rodney went like that, I thought, yeah, that's a big galooly in there. You want to shake it up a bit. And I think it's the truth. You know, I I used to live a life of existence, and now I live a life out loud.
Ah, I
I
love
live a life out loud, and it's quite different. Knowing I'm breathing on purpose, as Norma shared. I don't, you know what? I don't even think I do shallow breathing when I'm frightened now. I'm so used to doing this other deep breathing. I practice Tonglen, so I take in what's going on outside and take it in, and then I breathe that in, and it gets transformed into love, and I push out love out to the world. So
love
that's
it.
what I use my breathing exercise for, but it's the pushing that wakes me up and
Yeah.
says, oh, I'm in this arena today. Put your skates on, or do up your laces, or come to the party prepared. You know, that kind of thing.
I love the distinction you all are making because it takes it deeper for me that this idea is that there's the contemplation of the breathing, but then there's the action of the pushing. And we have to do both, right? We're bringing something new in, so we take the time to breathe and center, and then we take action. And we breathe and center, and we take action, and it just goes round and round and round.
Yeah.
So thank you. Yes, I love that. Love that. Thank you so much. And you brought up gosh, what was the other point that was so good? Oh, the that it gets easier,
Okay.
right? Both of you and Rodney said you both said this that the first time you do this new thing, you push yourself into new territory. It's scary, it's hard, it's messy, it's painful, it's all of those things. But the more you do it, the easier it gets, right? So wow, I love this conversation. I'm so glad we actually have 5 Sundays in October to talk about this, so we can. You're all of you are welcome to come back and continue this. But I'd love for Rodney just to your thoughts on that idea of how do you push yourself. Norma said the first thing I do is find my motivation, which I love that. Mary Ellen said it's being vulnerable. It's taking that chance to step into that scary place, and how the more you do it, the easier it gets. Do you have anything else you do or anything you want to add to that?
Well, first of all, I want to add that the first thing that came to mind after listening to Norma and Mary Ellen is this combination of that. Mary Ellen said, before she was just existing in existence. I thought she was going to say something else. And what it means for me is before I was existing and now I'm assisting.
Oh,
So that refer back to Norma because it's about being about a cause. That's my why. Is because would I do it just for myself? And gee, sometimes maybe not. However, when there's a cause, rise up, and then take that breath and push out like, hey, I'm getting behind this, or I'm getting in front of it, or I'm with it. Either way, my why is stronger than it's about something bigger than myself. It's not just about me, like I was just existing. No, now I'm assisting. I'm about something greater than myself that's a more powerful why that gets me out of bed and motivated and moving through the day. And yeah, sometimes that is a push. I mean, it's like not just a reason for breathing. I can just be in existence to breathe. It's what am I doing with my breath? How much of this breath am I using and putting into action? Because you need the breath to feed the cells, to feed, to put oxygen in the blood, and what's it all for? It's not just to sit on a rock. Well, it could, yeah,
right.
that counts at sometimes. You still need to breathe to sit on a rock. However, after a while, what is it for? That's why some of us choose ministry. That's why some of us are in the helping field in other ways. The doctors and nurses and whether they clean a toilet bowl or whatever they do, there is something behind that why, and it's like, oh, why not? It's like,
Right.
yeah, this how we say, what is it for me to do? What's mine to
Mhm,
do?
mhm.
And that is, and Mary Ellen, yeah, that's the push that we give ourselves.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, yeah, I if we're locked in a room and we're not communicating it with anybody, what do we know? What is there to do? Just eat and
Sure.
that's it. You know. But when we get into community, we find out where how I can fit in, and again, what's mine to do, and who I get to be, and all of that. So
Right.
yeah, that's reading is fundamental. It's
Yes.
essential.
Well, thank you all. I'm looking at our time, and unfortunately, we have to wrap it up. We've had some great quotes, and I put a couple of them up there. Here, we are connected. We feed others when we feed ourselves. Isn't that beautiful?
Hmm.
Thank you, Lewis. Yeah, just what a great conversation. I look forward to continuing this as we go. There's so much wisdom, and I thought I had a pretty good handle on it. And I bring my friends in to talk, and everybody gives me another little, a new perspective, another new angle, and I just so appreciate you all so much. This is part of the synergy and the joy and the wonderful thing about coming together in community, right? Because no one has all of the answers. We all bring our perspectives and our experience, and everybody has the opportunity to grow from that. So I thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
each one. And I don't know, I think, well, we have a recording that we do. We're on the radio, so we keep it to a certain time, but I think we're probably through that. And I'll just give you each a moment to just say something in closing, like a quick close our circle, if you want to do that. Anything to wrap up your end of the conversation? Are you set? And you can pass.
Well, I'm going to reiterate because I like the exchange and even the image from existing to assisting. And I think assisting has more life in it, assisting, that you have to be alive to assist anybody, and that includes me. So I like that exchange of words, as you know, Reverend Rodney. I welcome that. So thank you for that.
Thanks for the incentive.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love this what we do, and I love that and those contributing in the comments, and it really is this stuff. This really goes around the world. We don't have to see it where it goes. We know that there are people who are in alignment with pushing in a positive way in this whole process of breathing and pushing, so that because it supports life. It supports a greater expression of life, and it has to continue. It's not just breathe and push once. It's
Yeah.
and yeah, we have to use it in other areas of our lives, and yeah, for childbirth and business birth and whatever it is that we're
Ministries.
doing. It's
Right.
the mindfulness of it that is the important thing. It's like I might actually now, I mean, even now, I'm thinking about ways that what I haven't been pushing over in this area in in a in a beneficial way. I've been holding breath. I've been being shallow. I have to look at these things. So I just thank you all for this enlightening and encouraging and empowering discussion.
Thank you, Rodney. Thank you. Norma.
Real quick before they come back with the pressure washer. I was just thinking how the breathing centers you. Breathing gets you set, gets you ready for the pushing, because you can just run into something full force and just go willy-nilly and not really have a clue as to what you're doing or why you're doing it or what have you. But the breathing, the centering, the getting ready, set, then go. So that's what came to me when everyone else was talking.
Thank you so much, my beautiful friends, for your takeaways. And I look forward to continuing this conversation. Hope you have a fabulous week. And for everybody that's on, if they'd like to join us after Zoom, and of course our speakers or presenters are all welcome to be in the Zoom room with us directly after this conversation. We go on Zoom together and we do prayer requests and we catch up and we just see whatever else wants to be said. If there's somebody who's watching who has something they'd like to add to the conversation, join us on Zoom. So thank you, my friends, and we'll see you later this month. Take care.
Okay.
All right. Wonderful. And so it is time now, and I think the information is in the chat for those who would like to join us on Zoom after this. And now we go into the part of our service, of our time together, where we celebrate giving and our gifts and tithes. So let's see. This is for our offering here, sharing our gifts. This is an affirmation that we use, and I encourage you to make it yours. One of the things that we know in spiritual practice is that what we give, what we put out, comes back to us multiplied, right? So if you have need of money, then you want to give someplace, give where you are spiritually being served. And I hope that's CSL Ocala, but if it's not, make sure you're giving someplace, and that keeps that flow going. If it's friendship that you are wanting, then be a friend. If it's listening, that you need somebody to really listen and connect, then do that for somebody else, and it all comes around back to you. So I just encourage you to give, and I give thanks for everybody that gives to Center for Spiritual Living Ocala. We have folks that volunteer their time. We actually have some pretty major projects happening here, and so the need has gone up, especially as we prepare for meeting again in person. So all of your gifts are really truly appreciated, and we'll be sending out some information in the newsletter so you can see some of the things that are in front of us that are going to cost a pretty penny. So anyway, as I said, we greatly appreciate all of your gifts and tithes. So I invite you to take that gift, whatever it is, to think about it. Actually, we have a couple of ways that you can give. You can give on our website at cslocala.org via PayPal. Or if you have a smartphone, you can text to the number that is scrolling across the bottom of your screen, 352-320-5110. And what you do is you text to that number, you put in the amount that you would like to donate to the center, and it goes right from your account to our account as soon as it's set up. Super easy, and it feels really good to do it. So here is the affirmation. Again, make this your own. Just, hold your hand over your heart if you feel like doing that, and just take in these words. It is the nature of life to give of itself. As it is the tree's nature to bear fruit and the flower's nature to bloom, it is my nature to share the gifts of my time, talent, and treasure. I participate in the divine flow of life, giving generously and receiving abundantly. I am blessed and I am a blessing. I am so very grateful. And I know that's the truth about myself. I know that's the truth about you, that each one of you has the capacity, and I'm sure are the blessing in the lives of the people that you care about and that you love. And let's see. Let's put up our closing prayer here. Wonderful. We've got some events that are in the planning stages right now at Center for Spiritual Living, live events coming up in October, possibly a party before Halloween, and we'll have something coming up in November and December for the holiday season. And we are planning for reopening and coming together in person. It may be a little different than what it has been, but we're super excited, and we'll be inviting you all to be part of the visioning and planning for that process. So that brings us to our closing prayer, which comes to us from our friends in Unity, our sister organization. And this is a prayer from James Dillett Freeman that is very simple but very profound. And so I invite you to make this yours as well. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And I just know and affirm that God is everywhere that you are, and whatever challenges may be before you this week, that they become stepping stones to your great success. Just keep pushing through, keep breathing, and you will get to the other side, and there will be joy and love and peace in that place. I pray you have a fabulous week and look forward to catching up with you again next week. Do join us in Zoom if you can. Love and blessings.